For the last few weeks, we've been talking about premature births. This morning's guest knows all about it firsthand. You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Keller Williams, Myrtle Beach Central, home of Team Whiteman. We're focused on the March of Dimes and the upcoming WalkAmerica. And we're visiting with Brian Simpson, the parent of a premature child. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, Greg.
The parent of an amazing premature child, an amazing child. We can take premature out almost at this point, although I guess that'll never go away.
It does about 2 years into it.
Is that right?
He should catch up with his actual age.
Mm-hmm.
So he's at an adjusted age right now, which is about 3 months behind where he is right now at 7 months old.
Wow. So you really do have to factor it that way, since he arrived about 3 months early.
He arrived about 3 months early, and you've got to factor in right now him being 7 months old. He's actually at the 4-month-old level.
God, Brian, that is amazing. You still remember vividly, I guess, the end of August.
The end of August. He was born August 28th, and it was a day that it was a rough time for people that go through this. You just don't know what's around the corner, and you're not prepared for it.
So you and Lisa, and of course your amazing bride Lisa, who's been in education forever. Both of you all. Actually, let's just get into that. Are you originally from the area?
We're from the area, both Lisa and I. Lisa is a school teacher at Myrtle Beach Middle School.
Right.
And we went to high school together, but didn't actually reunite with each other until a few years down the line.
Is that right? Did you all know each other in high school?
We knew each other in high school and we were friends. So, and this is our first baby.
Wow. So really big. And of course, when you think about all the efforts that go into making sure, or to working hard to make sure a pregnancy is planned out and that everything would go according to plan, I guess there's really no way to know what the plans will be.
That's right. And we had a tough pregnancy, actually. She had what's called preeclampsia, and she got put on bed rest. And at that point, we still had a decent pregnancy where there was nothing out of the ordinary that happened. Pretty much 7 months into it, she started having stomach cramps. We took her to the hospital, and it was actually contractions.
Is that right?
And at that time, they put her in an ambulance from here and sent her down to Charleston to MUSC, and that night we had the baby.
That was August 28th.
That was August 28th.
That was August 28th. So really what you thought were just, or what Lisa thought were just cramps, or contractions.
Yes. And we were going down there to monitor her, so we had no idea that we were actually going down there to have a baby.
So the doctors here couldn't even, they couldn't gauge that it was about to happen.
They didn't come off as it was going to happen. They wanted to send us down there to monitor.
Right.
And she took the ambulance ride down. I drove down, took some clothes with him, and when I got down there, she had a team of about 10 to 12 people in there, in the room with her, and they were ready to go.
You knew it was more than cramps then.
Yes.
Wow,
so
Brian.
it was one night.
So you obviously had no idea in driving down. Do you remember, what was going through your mind? Clearly your wife's right in front of you in an ambulance.
Driving down, it was, just going to monitor her, see what's going to happen for the next few days, and then when I actually got down there, that's when it hit in that we were going to have the baby that night.
Wow.
And it was a lot of phone calls to family, letting them know what happened, because it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and they had no idea what was happening. So it was a big shock on everybody.
Right, right.
Going into it, the doctors down there are excellent, and they gave us all the alternatives of what could happen, and if we didn't have the baby at the time, that this baby needs its mother, and if we were to wait one more day, that possibly both of them would not make it. So
both of them. Wow,
and if the baby did make it, it did need its mom. And so that's how severe it got.
Son of a gun. Boy, Brian, so many of the things that oftentimes will occur during the pregnancy where you're trying to find out, for instance, a lot of parents want to find out the sex. Are those things you all had already gone through and had tried?
We had gone through it, and we were so excited. You know, just like anybody having a baby, which is in our first baby.
Right.
And before that, I'd really never held a baby.
Is that right?
So,
wow.
I got thrown into the learning curve real quickly. Pretty much never held a baby, never changed a diaper before.
Those are big things.
So it got us thrown in there quick. We had done all our checkups, and thank goodness, you know, she did everything correctly through the pregnancy. So there was nothing that she had done to harm her body or the baby. She ate all the correct foods, and this just happened. And this prematurity happens more than we know it, and it happens for reasons, whether it's medical reasons or the baby's just ready to come out.
You know, Joe Fisher was with us last Wednesday when we were up at Sparks Toyota, Brian. When you hear her talk about 1 in 24 babies, I mean, you know, 24 every day, or essentially 1 an hour over the course, but 1 in 8 babies in South Carolina born prematurely, but 24 on a daily. But that's a powerful and alarmingly high number.
It is. It is. Being down there in the NICU unit for the amount of time we were, you saw a lot of babies come and go through there, and sometimes they were very, very packed to capacity with the premature babies. It was just that they know what they're doing down there, and it's relieving because you never knew what you were going to walk into with your baby that day. You didn't know if it was going to be good news, bad news, if they were going to be up or down. So that's where March of Dimes comes in strongly with me, is that that day that he was born, they called me, and it was a tough time. We didn't know where there was hope, if we had hope. We'd gone through scenarios of what could happen with Owen, and March of Dimes calls, and I'm sure they have a tough job. They call you and let you know that they're there for you, and they maintain a positive outlook when you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
And they were very, very much there to console us. So I'll never forget those phone calls.
That's tremendous, Brian. That is tremendous. And of course, there's oftentimes other groups that would potentially step up for that role, but knowing that the March of Dimes across the board and community after community across America, that's why it's so critical for events like Saturday the 28th, the WalkAmerica for Horry County, on April 21st down in Georgetown, and all over the PD region and in our viewership. They're having walks all over the country.
It's very important, and you know, the technology, the money they put into the technology at these neonatal clinics, these intensive care clinics for babies, if it wasn't there, most of these babies wouldn't survive. They're in these incubators. They've got nasal cannulas, which are breathing devices on them. The way they care for these babies is a lot to do with March of Dimes. And not only that, March of Dimes also sent us care packages with, you know, diapers in it, and some baby clothing, books on how to care for your baby when you get this baby home. Because when you get home with a premature baby, you usually have some equipment to bring home. We had oxygen we had to bring home.
Is that right?
And we had monitors to monitor his breathing and his heartbeat. And he's on these 24 hours, 7 days a week. And these are alarms that go off so you know if they quit breathing or not. But through all that, March of Dimes makes us aware of how to care for the baby.
That's tremendous, providing a lot of great pamphlets as well as just providing the one-on-one.
The one-on-one phone calls are great, and they check up on you. But you know, the technology that is there is tremendous, and it's, you know, seeing how it actually happens. I did not know what the March of Dimes did before this.
Is that right?
I really was unaware, and now there's somebody that our family will strongly support for the rest of our lives.
That's tremendous. The family's not just the two of y'all; it's obviously the three of y'all. Now you've got some powerful photos here, Brian. This is a great opportunity to highlight some of these. Can you share with viewers a little background on each of these photos?
The first photo here is pretty much the first day that he was in the intensive care unit. To get an idea of how big he actually is, in his mouth there's a pacifier, and that's the smallest pacifier there is. And he is in a sort of incubator type deal that maintains their heat. They can't maintain their own body heat at this time. And at this time you can stick your arms in. They have armholes, and you can stick them in, touch them. Most of the time they're asleep, but he will grab your finger. And it was just beyond knowing what was going to happen at that time.
What a powerful experience.
It was amazing. And over here in the next picture, you can actually see his size in the nurse's hand that's holding him. At the time, she's actually putting a breathing device in his nose. She has him out of the incubator and is holding him. They have drips that go into them to feed them. Every day, it was amazing that the way they have the feeding devices going into their mouths. This is how they feed them, and they try to up their feeding every day. From 1 cc is what they're feeding them. And
1 cc.
We made it up to 2 cc's today. It's a milestone. Every day is a milestone that you're in that place, and you never know if you're going to get good news or bad news when you call, or when you go in there. In this next picture here, you can actually see the size of his hand. That's my hand, and if you can imagine the end of your fingertip with his hand around it.
Look at that. Look at that. With his fingers, those are all of his fingers wrapped around just your fingertip.
That's correct. And it just gives you an idea of how big he actually is.
And there's the shot with you on your birthday.
That was the first time we got to hold him, and that was on my birthday. And it was probably about 2 weeks after his birth, actually, and that was the first time we got to hold him. Like I was saying, they cannot keep their own body heat at that time, so as soon as they take them out of those incubators, they have to put them up against your body to create the heat for them. So it's skin on skin. You have to open your shirt up and make sure that they're warm. Yeah, about 2 weeks after he was born, I got to hold him on my birthday. So that was an amazing day that I'll never forget.
On September 11th, to think of that, and of course the joy. Literally, almost 2 weeks. His birth on August 28th. It was almost 2 weeks before you could actually hold him. You and Lisa both.
Yes. And we'd only get to hold him. You could hold them for an hour at a time, and you didn't want to stimulate them too much. They're just too young to stimulate. So you got them and you held them in one position for an hour, and then you put them back, and that was it. And at that time, they've got all kinds of cords on them, breathing devices, their feeding tubes, and they're just tape all over their face, holding all this equipment in. So it's amazing what they can do, and still allow us to hold them. I was very nervous. Like I said, I'd never really even held a baby before, much less a 2-pound a baby.
Right.
So I got thrown into it real quick, and we learned to change some very tiny diapers.
Oh yeah, my gal, and that's a practical thing. When Joe used to come, or other March of Dimes volunteers would come to the studio to film, they'd bring in examples of diapers for premature babies, as well as just some other great visuals. A ring that you could take all the way up the arm. Your wedding band, for instance, taking it all the way up to the shoulder level, and to see how narrow an arm is at that juncture.
It is amazing. In this next picture we have is when he is coming. Actually, this is the day he was coming home for good from the hospital. He was at 5 pounds when they let him come home, and we got him dressed up in his outfit and ready to take him to his home away from the hospital, because all I knew was the hospital before that.